Hello, this is Brian Scuttle, and this is sort of a quick take, but more of a general overview of the Oscar-nominated short films, of which I've seen 12 of them. I'm unable to find 3 of the documentary shorts, but I did receive screeners for all of the animated and live action shorts, and I was able to watch 2 of the documentaries, and I just want to basically give you a rundown of my personal feelings on all of those. It's a really great eclectic group of films this year in the shorts categories. I have tended to watch a lot of shorts because of my filmmaker screeners. This year was added by including shorts from the Dragon Con Film Festival as well as the Atlanta Film Festival. This year I'll be adding the Women in Horror Film Festival as well, so I'm looking forward to that. So this year's Oscar categories are really strong in a lot of the different categories, and the short subjects are no different. The first ones that I watched were the animated shorts. I watched those yesterday morning. There are 5 of them. There's Daughter, Hair Love, Kit Bull, Memorable, and Sister, which is actually one that I did see at the Atlanta Film Festival in one of the short film blocks. And that one was really wonderful. It was a unique little stop-motion vehicle on a person's thoughts about a sister that they ended up never having because of the one-child policy in China at the time. And it's a really striking and lovely piece of animation. It's in black and white. It was probably my favorite of the block at Dragon Con at the time. I think I did vote for it as my favorite one of that block. And so that one stuck out, and I'm really glad to see it get nominated. I will say, though, my favorite one, the one that I really hope wins, though, is Kit Bull, which is kind of traditionally animated, and it's about a cat and a pit bull who form an unusual bond when the pit bull is out in its pen. And what we come to see when it comes to this particular pit bull is a dog who's used in dog fighting. And it's really a very touching story of these 2 animals that sort of find each other and connect on an emotional level, and we see them succeeding, keeping themselves alive throughout a turbulent time for this pit bull. And it was a really wonderful movie. It's one of my very favorite short films of the year. And the one that has gotten the most love is Matthew Cherry's Hair Love, which is a film about a young girl who's trying to follow her mother's advice as far as doing her hair, and is unable to do it, and her father tries, and they succeed, and then you find out about the mother, and it's a moving, it's an entertaining short film. Memorable is another one that I really love. This was just a strong category for animated short. Memorable is it's essentially about an old man with Alzheimer's, and it's basically about the effects of it on the brain, and it's really, the way that it's animated is quite striking in how it depicts that, and it was something that meant a lot to me watching it, and I'm glad I got a chance to watch it. And then there's Daughter, which is another, most of these are stop motion. Kit Bull and Hair Love are the only ones that are somewhat traditionally or CG animated. Daughter, Memorable, and Sister are all different types of stop motion being used. Daughter is about father and daughter who have a hard time connecting, and you sort of like with all of these, you start to sort of see why as the story goes along. It's a really touching story. If I had to pick out my best one, it would be Kit Bull. That's the one that I really hope does win the Oscar, but really, they could not go wrong with any of these. All of these are quite charming and entertaining and just beautifully animated. So, we come to the live-action shorts, and I was not as big a fan of this category. There were some that I personally saw either at Dragon Con, either in my screeners, either in the Atlanta Film Festival that I enjoyed a bit more than some of the ones, but there are some really good ones. The first one was A Sister, which is a thriller about a woman who's been abducted, and she makes a phone call, and it's to emergency services, and it reminded me a lot of the Danish film that I saw last year, The Guilty, which I really thought was a fantastic movie. And this one sort of works in the same vein, and it's a really taut thriller. It's a really smart thriller, the way it's written and performed by the actresses, and it's probably my favorite of the 5 live action nominees. Not far behind though, and maybe even more so, my favorite is The Neighbor's Window, which is about a couple with kids who one day they look out the window and they find a couple of what look like newlyweds, or a younger couple who is really enjoying life, and they kind of get jealous about them with them, and they start to look on at them from afar, from their vantage point, and you sort of see the story progress about this couple, while you see the main couple that we're following go through some tough times when it comes to juggling work and family responsibilities, and it's a really beautifully written story that really packs a punch by the end. Those two by far are my favorites of the live action shorts that are nominated here. Next was Brotherhood, which is about a young Tunisian son who comes back with a mysterious wife to his family's farm, and he's just come back from Syria. And you kind of get the impression that there's something going on with the wife, but you're not quite sure. You wonder what it is. You wonder whether the son has been radicalized. You wonder what that's going to affect on his younger brother, who has stayed at home. And it's an interesting character narrative. It's a really compelling drama. Not my favorite. If it wins, it wouldn't surprise me much. Next is probably the most entertaining of the live action shorts. It is Nefta Football Club, and it's the story of two boys who are riding a motorcycle along the road, and one of them goes to the bathroom and they stumble upon a mule that happens to have drugs in it. They take the drugs, and then we see what happens. It's a very slight movie. It's very comedic in the way it unfolds. It's an entertaining movie. It's an entertaining short. I don't think it has much of a chance, but I kind of understand why they picked it. It's an entertaining short film. The last one is Syria. It is about orphan girls at at an orphanage in Guatemala, and it's inspired by the tragedy of a fire at this particular orphanage in 2017, and where 41 kids died, or 41 girls died, and it's a tragic movie. I didn't really get the emotional weight of it that I think they were trying for, but I think it's a solid short. I understand why all 5 of these got selected in their own ways, whether it's for the narrative or the approach to the narrative. Like I said, I think Neighbor's Window and A Sister are my 2 favorites. I think Brotherhood will possibly be the one that gets the Oscar. I'm not quite sure. It'll be interesting to see which of these 5 get the Oscar on February 9th. So that brings us to the documentary short subject nominations, which I've only seen 2. If I get a chance to watch the other 3 before Oscar night, I will definitely do so. Honestly, I have a hard time believing any of those 3 are going to top the Netflix documentary Life Overtakes Me for my vote for the documentary feature. This was a heartbreaking one to watch. It's about refugees in Sweden who suffer from what's the I gotta see what it is. It's about refugees in Sweden who, because of the trauma that they've gone through in terms of trying to get asylum with their families and making the trek to Sweden, they suffer from something called resignation syndrome, which is essentially they fall into a coma. And it's a really powerful piece of filmmaking. It's 40 minutes, and it absolutely broke my heart watching it. It's really tragic that these kids are going through it, and the numbers, and apparently the first one was in 2003, and there were 200 more cases recently, and it's on Netflix. It's well worth watching. That's Life Overtakes Me, and it is one of the best movies I saw this year. The other short that I saw from the documentary series was Walk, Run, Cha-Cha, which is about a couple from Vietnam who are separated when they go to the United States, but then they reconnect in the United States. And we get a sense of how they put their shared life together in the United States, and it involves dance. And it's a charming movie. It's an entertaining short. It's really moving to see these 2 interact through this intimate language of dance to essentially put their lives back together. And it's a fun little documentary. It's one of those that's really kind of heartwarming, and that's basically all you can expect from it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's my rundown of the 12 short subjects, 5 for the animation block, 5 for the live action nomination, and 2 for documentary short subjects. I hope you've enjoyed this, and check out more. I will have my Oscar podcast on www.sonic-cinema.com, as well as the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel where you're watching this video. And thank you very much.